Hello, good morning.
Good morning, madam.
I hope you are doing well.
That's by grace yourself.
I'm also doing well. How many people are we expecting to join the call?
Let's be final from the course rep.
Then please do, so that I'll know
Oh,
when to start.
okay,
But
madam.
we have only 6 people here, so please do find out for me.
Okay.
Madam, please, we are supposed to be 22, but we don't know whether, uh, I don't know. Yesterday we had less than 20. We don't know what is happening.
So what do you suggest? Do we start or we wait a while for them?
Please, I suggest we give them maybe 3 minutes, then we put it on the page so that they can join.
Okay, then do so for me.
Sure, thank you.
All right.
Madam,
Yes,
please, we can start.
we can start.
Yes, please.
Okay, let's start at 7:15. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Hello.
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 Hi.
Good
Hi.
morning once again. I was
Good
thinking
morning.
the
Good
class will
morning, ma'am.
start at exactly 7, since you are all aware, and this is not your first time, but that's fine. So my name is Dr. Daisy Husuhine, and I'll be taking you through organizational behavior for this block. Without wasting much time, we would like us to introduce ourselves. If you can, you give us your video so that at least I can see you just as you are also able to see me. So when you are introducing yourself, just let us see your video. Let me see your face. After the introduction, you can turn off your video. Is that okay?
Yes, madam.
All right. So we start from Catherine Minta. Catherine.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. So let's start from you. The introduction.
Please, I'm Catherine Minta from Kaswa Center.
All right. Thank you. Poma.
I'm Christina Mamepoma Opoku, Solution Center.
All right. Are you the class rep?
Yes, please.
Okay. Shay Edward.
Please, I'm Che Edward Jamra from Koforidia, Oyoko.
Right. Okay. Elizabeth Tete. Elizabeth, unmute yourself and speak.
Miss Elizabeth Tete from Koforidua Center.
All right. Nana Ose Kwabena Esiedu.
Yes, madam. I'm Emmanuel Esiedu Osei from Kaswa Center.
All right. Felicia Nkansa.
Please, I'm Felicia Gentleman Fifa from Accra Center.
Okay. Abbas Amidu.
I'm Abbas Amidu from Westco Kumasi Center. Thank you.
Okay. Then we have somebody who is represented by Y. Y, who is the Y? Yeboah William.
I'm William Seboa from Sunyane.
Okay. From Sunyani. And then any other person? Or is that all?
This dog, I'm Benjamin Awati from Kufuria Center.
Okay. Oyoko.
No, please, Ganas.
Ganas. Oh, okay. So you are all welcome to my class, organizational behavior for this block. So we will just go through the course outline. Then we will look at what is up for us today. So let's quickly go through the course outline. Sorry, let me look for the course outline for you. Okay. This morning, my computer is misbehaving. Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. It's amazing. I can't see it. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. You know, I have to be made but I have to be made co-host before I can share because I am not the person who is hosting this. Let me see if I've been given the no. You know what? Let me call those who are managing the system because I can't see it. I know I'm sharing, but I can't see it because I've not been given the authority to share my slide. Other than that, we cannot even have the lecture. I didn't know this was going to happen. So just give me about 10 minutes, about 10 seconds. Let me call them, okay?
Okay.
Normally, I do my lecture and then I record it myself. But this time, I think somebody is monitoring and then recording it as well. So I'm not able to. Okay, so please let's wait whilst the monitor makes me a co-host so that I can share the slide with you. So hello, class.
Hello, madam.
Yes, I'm back. So let's go on. I hope you can see it.
Yes, we can.
All right. So let's quickly go through the course outline. So for this organizational behavior, we'll be looking at introduction to organizational behavior. That is management in an organization. We'll look at contributing force to organizational behavior. That is the various force that has contributed to the discipline of organizational behavior. Then we look at emerging trends in organizational behavior. Then the 5 basic anchors of organizational behavior. When we are done with the introduction, we will look at learning in an organization. I have highlighted this because of time. Formally we're teaching 5 weeks, but this time they say we should teach 4 weeks. So if we are not able to cover it, maybe it will be given as a reading assignment. Then we will look at motivation. We look at the theories of motivation. That is the content theory. If we have time, we look at process theory and some reward. And then we also look at perception and personality, communication in an organization, work groups, teams, and conflict in the organization. And then we look at dynamics in an organization, such as organizational structure, leadership in an organization, organizational powers, organizational politics. Then we'll be done for the block. So having gone through the course outline, let us start our first slide, which is the introductory aspect of organizational behavior. All right. Forgive me, I'm finding it difficult to operating this. Normally, I do it on my own. So when somebody is controlling it, I don't know. So let me share the first slide. I think I just have to close this one. Yes, can you see my slide?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So we look at organizational behavior. So the aim of the aim is to understand the fundamentals underlying the management of an organization. So basically, when we are studying organizational behavior, we are just trying to understand the fundamentals underlying the management of an organization. And we also seek to examine the factors that influence individual behavior in the workplace, including personality, attitudes, motivation, perception, and learning. We also want to understand the dynamics of what? Organizational behavior. The learning objective for the introduction is to understand the nature, concept, scope, and meaning of organizational behavior, and to explain various anchors of organizational behavior, and to understand the implication of the anchors to organizational behavior. Now we ask ourselves, what is an organization? For organization, we have come across a lot of words like organization. We've always been using organization, especially business students. Organization, organization, organization. So what is an organization? An organization can be described as a structured and purposeful entity composed of people, resources, and systems that work together to achieve specific goals or objectives. It can be a business, government agency, non-profit organization, educational institution, or any other formal entity. Organizations have defined roles, responsibilities, and hierarchies with established processes and procedures to guide their operations. So when we look at an organization, we understand that it is an entity which is structured and which is composed of resources, people, systems, and other things with a stated what? Objective. It can be profit or non-profit organization. And then it has roles, responsibilities, and then it is structured in a hierarchical manner with established goals, roles, procedures to guide their what? Operations. The study of organization and of the collection of people within them together comprises the field of organizational behavior. So when we talk of organizational behavior, we are looking at the collection of people within the organization. Organizational behavior is a discipline that deals with the study and application of knowledge about how people as individuals and as a group act within organization. So you agree with me that when we take an organization, we will see people in the organization, individuals, as they work individually, and then groups, because sometimes the organization can also comprise of teams and give tasks to specific teams. So these teams are a group of people who come together to achieve a particular task that has been assigned to the team. And so we say that organizational behavior is the discipline that deals with the study of knowledge about how individuals behave, and then how the group of people who are put together as a team also behave within the organization. Organizational behavior is a field of study that is, according to Robbins, he defines organizational behavior as a study that investigates the impact that individuals, groups, and organizational structure have on behavior within the organization for the purpose of applying such knowledge towards improving an organizational effectiveness. So according to Robbins, he looks at organizational behavior as studying the impact of individual, group, and the organizational structure on the behavior of what? Those working within the organization. So sometimes when we look at the organizational structure and it is too robust, it is so rigid, it can influence the behavior of people working within the organization. When we look at organizational style, management style, it can also affect the way people behave in an organization. And so sometimes when leaders are exhibiting the autocratic style, you realize that subordinates also react in or respond in a certain way. And then when leaders are exhibiting the laissez-faire or the democratic style, this style also affects the behavior of individuals within the organization. So for Robbins, organizational behavior looks at the behavior of people based on the organizational structure. And then we also have Luthans. Fred Luthans also defines organizational behavior as to understand, predict, and control behavior at work. And so for him, when we are able to study the behavior of people to understand and to predict and to control how they will behave next, that is the study of what? Organizational behavior. The definitions of organizational behavior focus on three main themes. So the first theme is that organizational behavior is an investigation between individuals and groups, the impact of organizational structure on human behavior, and the application of that knowledge to achieve organizational effectiveness. So when we are learning or when we are studying organizational behavior, we hope to be able to understand people as individuals and as groups, and then to understand how the organizational structure impacts on their behavior, and to apply the knowledge to achieve what? Organizational effectiveness. Now we look at goals of organizational behavior. We are learning organizational behavior. What are the goals of organizational behavior? Why is it important? Or what do we try to achieve by studying organizational behavior? One, to understand behavior. Organizational behavior aims to understand why people behave as they do in the workplace, considering factors like personality, motivation, attitude, and perception. And so when we are studying organizational behavior, we are just trying to understand why people behave the way they do, based on their personality, the nature of motivation, their attitude, and their perception. You know, people perceive that when it is the resources is for government, it is not for a particular individual. That is a perception. So those who hold this perception will behave in a particular way. So when they see that things are not going well within the organization, because it is a state-owned organization, they don't care because of their perception. But if it were to be an individual organization or some expatriate organization, then probably their attention will be drawn to certain things that are not going well within the organization. And so people's perception actually determine the way they behave in an organization. When people are well motivated, you know, they behave differently. When they are not motivated, they are not punctual at work, there is absenteeism, there are turnover, and so on and so forth. Sometimes the person's personality trait will also determine how they behave. When we look at people with assertiveness, they are bold, they can talk. When we look at people with other personality traits, some are quiet, some wouldn't speak a word when even they are hurt. So based on when we are able to study organizational behavior, we'll be able to understand people's behavior based on whether they have different perception, their personalities are different, their motivation and attitudes are different. So one of the goals of studying organizational behavior is to understand how people behave in the organization. We also study organizational behavior to predict behavior. So once we understand organizational behavior, we can be able to determine how people will behave. We can be able to predict how people will behave. The study seeks to predict how individuals and groups will behave in different organizational situations based on patterns and situational factors. And so given motivation, for instance, you realize that when people are well motivated, as a manager, you can predict that when you introduce certain policies, because they are well motivated, they will accept those policies. If there are organizational changes, if the structure is to be changed, or if there are major organizational restructuring, because of how you understand the behavior of people, you can predict whether they are going to resist that change or they are going to support that change. We also talk of improving performance. Organizational behavior focuses on enhancing individual and group performance by studying motivation, job satisfaction, and implementing interventions to improve productivity and satisfaction. So we study behavior to be able to predict what motivates people, What helps people to be satisfied? So once we identify the factors that motivate people or the factors that contribute to job satisfaction, we can improve those factors so that individuals' performance in the organization can be what? Improved. We also look at enhancing organizational effectiveness. It examines organizational structure, communication, leadership, and decision-making to identify areas for improvement and align behavior with organizational goals. Remember, we said that organizational behavior focuses on 3 basic elements. And one of them was what? Organizational effectiveness. So the study of organizational behavior will help us understand appropriate organizational structures, good communication lines, better leadership styles to enhance decision-making in order to improve the overall effectiveness of the organization. It also aims to promote employee well-being. Organizational behavior emphasizes creating a positive work environment that supports employee physical, mental, and emotional health through policies and practices. So when we are studying organization, when we are studying the way people behave, it can give an idea to implement policies for improved physical and mental well-being, which eventually will promote employee well-being. And then, of course, managing diversity and inclusion. It addresses the challenges and benefits of diversity in the organization or in the workplace, promoting inclusive practices and leveraging diversity for innovation and better decision-making. Because the study is about people, individuals, and in groups, it helps to understand the diverse people in the organization. When we say workplace diversity, we are looking at demographics, the males, the females, the various age groups, the ethnic groups, national groups, disability people, and able people, how they blend in the organization to help promote what? Decision making. And so you realize that in an organization, we will have people within the ages of 30 and 40. We will have people within the ages of 40 and 50. We will have males and females. Of course, they all think differently, but the differences or the diversity with which they exhibit in the organization will actually help to create innovation and to help with better decision making. Now we look at contributing field to organizational behavior. Any question up to this stage? Any question? Catherine. Catherine, do you have any question?
No,
Hello?
madam. Hello, madam. No, madam.
No question. Okay, so can we go on? Poma. Poma, do you have any question? Yeah, Abbas, are you okay? Abbas?
Yes, please. I'm okay, ma'am.
All right. So we are saying that some fields have contributed to the discipline of organizational behavior. Organizational behavior did not just come into existence. Of course, there are some disciplines which have contributed to the establishment of organizational behavior as a discipline on its own. So we are going to look at some of these disciplines which have also contributed to the establishment of organizational behavior. Organizational behavior is an interdisciplinary field that draws upon various contributing fields to understand and explain human behavior within organization. Here are some of the key contributing fields to organizational behavior. So we have psychology. Psychology provides insight into individual behavior, recognition, motivation, perception, and personality. It helps in understanding how individuals think, feel, and behave in the workplace. So we are looking at organizational behavior as the study of how people behave. And to understand how people behave, we have to draw on psychology, because psychology provides insight into people's behavior, how they are motivated, their perception, and their personality. So for us to be able to understand organizational behavior, we need to draw this from the discipline of what? Psychology. We can also look at sociology, how sociology has contributed to the field of organizational behavior. Sociology contributes to organizational behavior by studying group behavior, social structures, social interaction, and the impact of social factors on organizational dynamics. It examines how social norms, roles, and relationships influence behavior within organization. So you realize that sociology also deals with what? Social groups, social structure. And remember, we said that in an organization, we have teams. Teams are social groups. Organization is also what? Arranged in hierarchical structure, which are made up of what? Social structure. Because at each hierarchy, people are actually what? They are centered around a particular what? Hierarchy. And so to understand this hierarchical what? Structure within the organization, we need to draw understanding from sociology. Then we look at anthropology. Anthropology brings a cross-cultural perspective to organizational behavior. It explores the impact of culture, values, and customs on organizational behavior and examines how organizations adapt to different cultural contexts. We were just talking about diversity and inclusivity. Diversity also involves cultural differences. And so to be able to understand how people behave differently in terms of culture and values within the organization, we need to draw on anthropology. When we study anthropology, it helps us to understand cross-cultural perspective, how people, identify themselves distinctly with respect to particular cultures, how they put some values on some things in life, because there are some people who value things more than others, depending on their cultural origin. And so when we study anthropology, it will help us to understand why people put values on some things other than others. Then we look at management. Management theories and principles contribute to organizational behavior by providing frameworks for understanding organizational structures, leadership style, decision-making processes, and organizational design. Management principles like planning, organizing, staffing, and so on and so forth actually help to organize the organization in a way that will enhance effective performance. It also helps to understand why organizational structures exist, why there are different types of leadership styles, and the processes involved in decision-making and organizational design. So when we are talking of organizational behavior, of course, we are also looking at organizational structure. And without the study of management, we wouldn't be able to understand organizational structure or leadership styles. And so we are able to contribute to organizational behavior by adapting to management theories and principles to be able to understand leadership styles, decision-making processes in the organization. Then we have communication studies. Communication plays a crucial role in organizational behavior. The field of communication studies offers insight into personal, interpersonal and organizational communication, including verbal and nonverbal communication, conflict resolution, and the impact of communication on employee behavior and organizational outcomes. So for us to be able to understand how people behave in organization, we must also learn communication, because there are a lot of communication that takes place within the organization, both verbal and non-verbal, both formal and informal communication. So for us to be able to communicate well within the organization, we must draw this understanding or this knowledge from communication studies. We also look at economics, and we say that economics contribute to organizational behavior by examining how economic factors such as incentives, rewards, and resource allocation influence individual and organizational behavior. It helps understand the economic aspect of decision making and motivation in the organization. So you realize that we also use economic factors in an organization, like reward. When employees are rewarded adequately, their behavior is what? Expected to increase. I mean, their behavior is expected to be positive. When there are incentives in the organization, bonuses and commission, both financial incentives and non-financial incentives, if these are within the organization, it influences individuals and the organizational behavior. And so we also understand that when people are rewarded, their decision making or their impact in the organization is positive. And we understand this by studying what? Economics, and understanding the various factors that will impact positively on individual behavior within the organization. We also look at industrial and organizational behavior psychology, industrial and organizational psychology. Industrial and organizational psychology specifically focuses on applying psychological principles to the workplace. It studies topics such as employee selection, training, performance appraisal, job satisfaction, and organizational development. We want to study why people behave the way they do in an organization. And we must understand this from their psychological point of view. When in the process of employee selection, we select people with the required skills, we expect them to put a very good performance. When we appraise their performance and then we realize that they are not doing so well, then we can recommend training for them. And so when people are not doing well, you don't just reprimand them. You don't just sack them. Organizational psychology has enabled us with the knowledge that when people are not doing well, probably there may be problems, whether individual problems or organizational associated problems. And so you need to investigate this, and if it is called for training, you train them to equip them with the requisite skills and competencies that will help them to perform well. And of course, there is job satisfaction. Organizational psychology will give you the antecedent of job satisfaction, the factors that contribute to job satisfaction. So by studying industrial and organizational psychology, we are able to understand the factors that help employees to be satisfied within the job. You know that satisfied employees are loyal and committed, they are engaged, and then they put their best within the organization. Then, of course, we have human resource management. Human resource management provides practical insight into managing employees within organizations. It covers areas such as recruitment, selection, training, performance management, compensation, and employee relations, all of which impact organizational behavior. So the way we manage people in the organization, the way we select people, the way we recruit individuals, the way we appraise their performance and manage their performance, the way we compensate them, the type of remuneration and reward that is given to individuals in the organization actually impacts their behavior. If people perceive that they are not being rewarded or compensated well, they behave in a particular way. When they also perceive that their rewards in comparison with other organizations, they feel better, you realize that they are satisfied, they are committed, and their behavior is also different. So basically, these are the contributing fields or the fields that have contributed to the study of organizational behavior. Any question? Any question? Any question? Cecilia. Cecilia, do we have any question? All right. So we look at components that needs to be managed, organizational components that needs to be managed. We said that an organization is made up of structured systems, and all these systems need to be managed to be able to have a successful organization. And so we look at the various set of forces within the organization that needs to be managed. A complex set of forces affect the nature of organizations today. And these forces can be classified into people. So in the organization, we have people in the organization. We have structure in the organization. We have jobs, we have technology, and of course, we have the external environment. And all these need to be managed in order to have the organization perform its roles and responsibilities effectively. So managing people, managing employees through effective human resource practices, including recruitment, training, performance management, and engagement. So it is important to manage the people within the organization, because without them, we always say that employees are the asset of the organization. You can have all the resources, money, machines, inputs, and other things. Without people, you cannot transform the input into output. So it is important to manage this component of the organization so that the organization can see to its continuity objective. Then we have the structure. Structure, these are designing and maintaining an efficient organizational structure that clarifies role, responsibilities, and decision-making process. It is also important to manage the structure so that there can be distinctive roles and responsibility, so that there wouldn't be role ambiguity and then role overlap. When there are role ambiguity, people don't know what they are supposed to do. So Akwesi Mensah will be doing job A, Akwesi Amansa will also be doing job A, Akwesi AJ will also be doing job A. But when there are clarity, Akwesi Mensah knows that his job is job A, Akwesi Amansa knows that his job is job B, Akwesi AJ knows that his job is job C. So when there are clarity in terms of roles and responsibilities, there are no overlaps, there are no role ambiguity. And so structures need to be managed so that there will be clarity of roles and responsibilities in order to do away with role ambiguity and overlaps. We also have technology. We need to manage technology. Leveraging appropriate tools, systems, and processes to support organizational operations and drive innovation and efficiency. In the world of business today, there are always changing technological phases. We have the web-based, we have the clouds. Now we even have, we used to have the robots, now we have AI. So for an organization to always stay in competition, you need to leverage the appropriate technology, so that at every point in time, you can be in operation and in competition. Organizations also need to manage jobs, designing roles that align with organizational goals, provides growth opportunities, and enhance employee satisfaction. So here it is being advised that jobs are designed such that they will align with the goals of the organization as well as the individuals. When you design the job such that it strains the individuals performing the jobs are so stressed, at a point they will break down and the job performance cannot go on. And so when you are designing the job, you take people into consideration, you take resources into consideration, and then of course you take the organizational goal into consideration. If the goal of the organization is to produce 10,000 tons of output, then when you are dividing or when you are designing the roles, you need to design it such that each individual will contribute to that quantity of tons being expected to be produced within the organization in that particular time. And then of course we also have the external environment. Monitoring and adapting to external factors such as market trends, competition, and regulatory changes to seize opportunities and mitigate risk. And so in most organizations, we have something we call SWOT, the SWOT analysis. You need to look at your strengths, your weakness, the opportunities, and the threats. And so when you try to scan the environment, you'll be able to identify the threats and the opportunities in the environment. Once you identify the opportunities, you take advantage of it. Once you identify the threat, you set up goals and measures to offset the impact of these threats. You cannot be in operation without looking at your external environment, because the external environment, the factors that are within the external environment are uncontrollable. But then with strategic initiative or strategic measures, you can be able to minimize the impact. It also calls for opportunities. So when you scan the external environment, you are able to identify opportunities. Some of the opportunities may be a market niche. There may be a niche somewhere or a market segment somewhere where people have ignored. And so you can take advantage of that. You can produce for that particular market segment. You can also look at competition. What are the price charges of competitors' products? What are the brands? What are the colors? You can take advantage of this. You can rebrand your product to appeal to consumers, so that you can extend your market share. So as a manager or as people studying the organization, we must also study the external environment and manage it well, so that it can affect us positively, and we can also have opportunities to be able to extend our businesses. Now, how do we manage these components? We are saying we must manage people, we must manage jobs, we must manage the external environment. How do we manage these components? And these are some of the ways that we can manage the component. We need to be able to describe the component, we must understand the component, we must predict, and then of course we must control. So how do we describe the various components? This involves gathering information and describing the current state of each component. So examples, when we want to describe people in the organization, we must conduct employee survey to understand their needs, preferences, and challenges. The individuals working in organization as management or as a manager, you cannot just look at them and understand what they do. You need to actually interact with them by collecting data from them, asking them how they feel, what their challenges are, and what their needs are. And you can do this through employee survey. Then we also look at the structure, mapping out the existing organizational structure and documenting reporting relationship. To be able to describe the structure, you must be able to study the structure, and then you also identify the reporting relationship, who reports to who. If it is a line structure or a line organizational structure, you have one person reporting to the other. If it is a functional relationship or a functional structure, then you know that every function is on its own. So we have the marketing manager, and then under the marketing manager, we may have the sales reps, we may have the sales executive, we may have those working in the marketing department, and so on. And so it is important to identify these structures and to also document what reporting relationship. Once you are able to document this, you'll be able to identify whether there are overlaps, whether more people are reporting to a particular supervisor or a particular manager. Then we also look at technology. How do we describe technology? By assessing the current technological infrastructure, software applications, and their functionality. If you want to identify, or if you want to understand how this technology work in your organization, you must be able to find out how the structure and then the type of software that is being applied in the organization and how they function. Once you're able to do this, you can identify that some of the software are outdated, and so you may need to update them. Some of the processes are not functioning well, and so you'll be able to work on it for a successful functionality. Then we look at jobs. How do you describe jobs? Conduct job analysis to document the task, responsibilities, and the required skills for each job or role. To understand the job, you need to conduct what is called job analysis. In the job analysis, you'll be able to identify who qualifies to do this job, what are the various tasks that is involved in the performance of this job, and what are the skills that is required or the competencies that is required to perform a particular job. You can only identify these through job analysis. Then we have the external environment. How do you describe this external environment? By analyzing market trends, competitor strategy, and regulatory changes affecting the industry. So when you want to understand or describe the external environment, you need to look at your competitor strategy, their branding style, their price, their packaging, and even their marketing strategy. And then you must also look at some of the changes, regulatory changes that is affecting the industry. It could be tax, it could be ethical values, it could be anything that is affecting the industry. Once you are able to identify this, you'll be able to position your organization in a very competitive situation. Then how do you understand these structures? Once the components are described, the next step is to gain a deeper understanding of them. People analyze employee performance data to identify patterns and factors influencing productivity. So to be able to understand the behavior of people within the organization, you must be able to understand how they perform. And you can do this through performance appraisal. And once you gather those performance appraisal data, you can be able to determine whether people are performing poorly or they are performing better. Then we look at the structure, how to understand the structure. You conduct interviews or focus groups with employees to understand their experiences with the current structure. So you can conduct extensive interview by interviewing everybody within the organization, or you can focus on group discussion. So you can pick some group and then you discuss with them to learn their experiences or to understand their experiences with respect to the structure that is being operated within the organization. In technology, engaging with IT professionals and conducting user feedback sessions to comprehend technological usability and limitation. There are organizations who have introduced technology that are so complex that they are not even user-friendly. So if you want to understand how technology is impacting on people's performance, you can engage with IT personnel, or you can conduct user feedback session, so that you can understand whether the technology is friendly for other people to use or it is limited. Then we look at jobs. You conduct interviews or survey with employees to understand their perception of job satisfaction and areas of improvement. And then with the external environment, you conduct market research and industry analysis to understand customer preferences and emerging trends. So the market research will allow you to understand consumers' preference, consumers' taste. There are some products that come in bulk. Not everybody will get the big money to go and buy the big product. And so once you conduct market research, customers or consumers will be able to tell you their preferences, that we want this product to be in bits so that we can afford them. Some can also say that we don't like the colors of this product. Some can also say that this product is too harsh. When you use it, it is not user-friendly. But when you conduct market survey or market research, it will be able to help you to understand the taste and preferences of consumers. In the same way, when you conduct industry analysis, it will help you to understand the emerging trends within the industry, whether over the years the industry is falling or it is growing. What are the elements that is helping the industry to grow? Who are the new entrants, and which companies within the industry have wounded up? So you look at the industry analysis, and then you can even take advantage of the things that you can find to also improve on your existence. Then predicting future outcomes and trends relating to the components. With people, how do you predict people? How do you predict the structure, technology, jobs, and external environments? With people, analyzing employee turnover and performance data to predict potential attrition rates and identifying high potential employees. So to be able to predict whether people will leave the organization or whether people will be retained, to be able to predict whether people will increase productivity, you need to analyze the turnover rate. If you analyze employee turnover and you realize that over the past 5 to 10 years, nobody has left the organization, then all things being equal, for the next 5 years, you expect that people will still remain in the organization. Then we also look at the structure, forecasting the impact of changes in the organizational structure on communication flow and decision-making efficiency. So you can look at the structure. Based on the current organizational structure, how is decision-making is the decision-making process? Is it being fast or is it being slow? Depending on the organizational structure, decision-making can be fast or decision-making can be slow. When we take the centralization structure, for instance, you realize that with this, decision-making is fast because decision is taken at the bottom, the topmost level of the organization, and then it is spread through for everybody to work with that decision. But when we look at the decentralized structure of an organization, you realize that decision making has to travel through all the lines before it is accepted or not. So this delay decision making. So to be able to predict how decision will be efficient, you can also have to understand the structure of the organization. Then we look at technology, predicting the need for technological upgrades or investment based on industry trend and future business requirements. So the current technology that you are using, you can be able to predict if you need to upgrade the technology based on what? The investment that you want to what? To undertake. So if in future you want to what? Increase what? Productivity. If in future you want to automate certain what? Aspect of the business, then you must be able to predict that technology will also what? Increase, will be upgraded to enhance that automation aspect of that what? Particular section of the business. Then looking at jobs, predicting jobs, forecasting skill gaps and future job roles based on industry advancement and organizational goals. If in future organization wants to expand, if they want to create more branches, then they must be able to predict the skill that will be needed. If currently we have 6 branches, but our aim is that in 5 years' time, we need to get 10 branches. Of course, those branches are going to need people. They are going to need machines. They are going to need technology. And so we should be able to forecast into which people we are going to recruit and select for the new branches that is we are going to open. Then we look at the external environment, predicting market shifts, competitor strategy, and regulatory changes to adapt organizational strategies accordingly. We need to be able to predict the market shift. For instance, now the dollar is coming down. Prices of fuel is also coming down. So if all things being equal, should this be able to sustain, then we realize that prices of goods and services are more likely to also come down. Then if prices are going to come down, then it means that customers are going to have higher purchasing power. They are going to be able to buy more products. And so you can use this analysis to actually introduce new products or even extend your market share. You can also find out your competitor strategy. If your competitor strategy is such that they are reducing prices because now the dollar rate has come down, it is presumed that if they are importing their inputs, the prices of input will also come down, so that all things being equal, the production of the goods that they've been bought with, the dollar will also the cost will also come down. So if this is what your competitor is trying to do, you have to study this so that you can also draw up your own organizational strategy accordingly, so that you will not be out of competition. Then we have to also control these elements, implementing strategies and interventions to effectively manage and control the components. And so how do we control people? How do we control the structure? How do we control technology, jobs, and external environments? Implementing performance management system, training programs, and employee recognition initiative to improve engagement and performance. So you realize that when you study people, when you study human resource principles, you realize that you can control people. You can change people's behavior by implementing performance management system, by implementing new reward structure, training programs, and so on. So to control people, you need to actually implement performance management system, so that you can control their performance standards. You should also introduce training programs so that you can control the way they perform. If they are not trained, they may lack the requisites or the updated skill to perform. But with constant training, you are equipping them with the appropriate skills and competencies to be able to produce and to improve engagement. Looking at the structure, restructuring departments or teams to enhance collaboration and streamline decision-making process. We have already said that some organizational structures actually deter fast decision-making process. And so to be able to fast-track the decision-making processes, we need to restructure the departments so that we can enhance collaboration and improve the decision-making processes. Looking at technology, how do we control technology? By upgrading software systems, implementing cybersecurity measures, and providing user training to optimize technology utilization. Like I said, there are some organizations, they introduce expensive technology, but they are not user-friendly. And so to be able to control the technology, you must be able to update or upgrade the software. You must be able to improve the security measures, and then you must be able to equip people with knowledge and understanding to be able to make use of the technology. Then we have jobs, redesigning job roles, implementing flexibility, flexible work arrangement, and providing career development opportunities to enhance job satisfaction and retention. And then finally, we have external environment by establishing strategic partnership, adapting marketing strategy, and lobbying for favorable regulatory changes to navigate the external environment effectively. So when you realize that you are not able to cope with the external environment, you can go into amalgamation and joint ventureship with partners who are doing well. You can also adapt. When you are adapting, you are taking or you are using an existing marketing strategy by an existing organization. And then sometimes too, you can lobby politically for favorable economic conditions, such as maybe loans, interest rates, and so on and so forth. So for the external environment to be able to control this, you can partner with strategic partners. You can join them by forming joint ventureship. You can amalgamate with other well-doing organizations. You can also adapt marketing strategies, and then you can also lobby for favorable changes within the environment. Any questions so far? Any question? Any question? All right. We look at elements of organizational behavior. We are studying organizational behavior. So when we are studying organizational behavior, what are the elements that we need to know that constitutes organizational behavior? One, we have individual behavior. Understanding and managing factors that influence employee attitude, motivation, and decision making. So when we are looking at organizational behavior, we are looking at individual behavior. Another thing we are also looking at is group behavior, studying team dynamics and communication patterns, and fostering effective collaboration. Organizational structure, we also look at organizational structure, designing systems for efficient communication, coordination, and decision-making within the organization. We also talk of organizational structure. When we are looking at organizational behavior, we must also understand organizational structure. And these are shaping shared values, beliefs, and practices to create a positive work environment. We also look at power and leadership by examining leadership styles and power distribution to motivate employees and achieve organizational goals. And then finally, we look at change management, effectively managing change processes and addressing resistance to facilitate smooth transition. So basically, these are the 6 elements of organizational behavior. Finally, we will look at the anchors of organizational behavior. And we have 5 basic anchors of organizational behavior. The first one is an open system anchor. Organizations are seen as open systems that interact with their external environment. They receive inputs from the environment, transform them through internal processes, and produce output that affect the external environment. For example, a manufacturing company receives raw materials from suppliers, processes them into finished goods, and delivers them to what? Customers. So you realize that organizations do not stay in isolation. They are not in isolation. They are open system. They take from the environment and they give from the environment. They take input from the environment, transform them into output, and then gives back to what? The environment. And so that is why we say that an organization is an open system what? Anchor. Then it is what? A multidisciplinary what? Anchor. Organizational behavior, we have seen that it draws insights from various what? Disciplines, such as psychology, sociology, anthropology, and management. Each discipline provides unique perspectives on understanding human behavior in the organization. For instance, psychology helps in understanding individual motivation, while sociology examines group dynamics and organizational culture. So we say that organizational behavior is also what? A multidisciplinary what? Anchor. We say it is a scientific method anchor. And we say this because the scientific method is used to study organizational behavior systematically. It involves gathering empirical evidence through rigorous research methods such as survey, experiments, and observation. Remember, we said that when you want to understand the way people behave in the organization, you can have what? Employee survey. And when you are doing this, you are doing what? A scientific method of what? Research. And so that is why we are saying that organizational behavior uses scientific method of what? Anchor. For instance, a researcher may conduct a survey to examine the relationship between leadership style and employee job satisfaction. So we are using what? Systematic what? Approaches in solving what? Or finding some relationship within the organization. We also have contingency anchor. There is no one size fits all approach to managing organization. So what this anchor is saying that in the management of an organization, you cannot say that when you use the autocratic style, that is best. Or when you use the laissez-faire, that is best. There is no one size fits. Depending on the situation in the organization, it will also call for what? A particular style to manage them. The effectiveness of management practices, structures, and strategies depend on various contingencies, such as the organizational context, industry, and individual differences. For example, a flexible and decentralized decision-making approach may work well in a dynamic and innovative industry, but may not be suitable for a highly regulated and stable industry. So that is why we are saying that we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach in managing organization. Depending on the situation, that will call for what? A particular management style. Then the final anchor is that it is a multi-level analysis what? Anchor. Organizational behavior can be studied at different levels of analysis, including individual, group, and organizational level. Remember when we started with the definition, we said that it is the study of how individuals behave, how groups behave, and how organizations also behave. And so we can analyze organizational behavior based on individuals, groups, as well as what? The organization. Each level influences and is influenced by the others. For instance, individuals behavior is influenced by group norms, while group dynamics are shaped by organizational structures and processes. And so we have seen the 5 basic what? Anchors of organizational behavior. Any question? Any question? Any question? Okay, so now what is the implication of understanding these 5 anchors? Organizations should recognize their interaction with the external environment and adapt to changes in the market, technology, and sociocultural factors. Drawing insights from multiple disciplines, can provide a holistic understanding of organizational behavior and help address complex challenges. Employing scientific research methods can ensure the validity and reliability of studies on organizational behavior and support evidence-based decision-making. Management practices should consider contextual contingencies and be tailored to specific situations rather than relying on a one-size-fits-all approach. And then analyzing behavior at different levels, that is group, individual, and organization, can uncover the underlying dynamics and interactions that shape organizational customers. So with that, we end the first aspect or the introductory aspect of organizational behavior. Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question? Are we all okay? Or we don't want to ask any question? Benedicta? Benedicta, do you have any question?
Yes, madam.
Are you
No,
okay?
please. Yes, please.
Aminu.
Yes, madam. Yes, dog.
Any question?
No, please, I'm okay, madam.
All right. Felicia in Cancer, do you have any question?
Yes, madam. Please, I'm okay.
Okay. So having completed the introductory aspect, let's take a 5-minute break and then we look at the second slide. We are going
Hello,
to look
madam.
at motivation. Yes,
Hello,
Ima.
madam.
Yes.
I think your explanation and all that are okay, but I wanted to ask this also. If
Okay.
it seems the points are almost like we are studying organizational psychology. I don't know how related are the two areas, or one draw from the other. I don't know.
Yes, organizational behavior draws on organizational psychology. So if we have already studied organizational psychology, it's really good because that will help us to even understand it better. Organizational psychology looks at how people behave in organization, and organizational behavior also tries to explain why people are behaving the way they are behaving. So one is drawing on the other. So when we looked at the contributing field to organizational behavior, you remember we mentioned industrial and organizational psychology.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, madam.
You are welcome. Any other question? Any other question? Okay. So if you are not, we don't have much question. Let's give ourselves about 5 minutes break. Let's just get up, do some warm up, and then we come back to continue with our second slide. Is that okay? So it's 8:40. We will come back at 8:45.
Okay, madam.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, can we continue?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
All right. Okay. So our next lesson is going to be on motivation. So let me share the screen. Okay. Please, can you see my screen? Can you see the screen? Yeah, motivation. Yeah, so our next lesson is going to be on motivation. Motivation. The outline, we are going to look at the concept of motivation. We will look at intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, the theories of motivation. With the theories, we will look at the content theory and the process theory. And then we also look at reward. At the end of the lesson, we are expected to be able to define motivation, differentiate between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, identify the theories of motivation, and explain the type of reward systems available to organizations. So what is motivation? The term motivation was derived from the word motive. Motive may be defined as an inner state of our mind that activates and directs our behavior. It triggers us to move and act. Motivation is something that moves a person to an action. So when we say motivation, we are looking at something that will push us to act in a certain way. Motivation is defined as the inner burning passion caused by needs, wants, and desires, which propels an individual to exert his physical and mental energy to achieve desired objective. Motivation refers to the internal processes.
Doc, please, the screen is not moving.
The screen is not moving.
Yes, please.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let me use this aspect rather. So he said that motivation is defined as the inner burning passion caused by needs, wants, and desires which propel an individual to exert his physical and mental energy to achieve desired objective. So here we are saying that it is an inner what? Burning what? Passion. It comes from within. And this is caused by a need to do something, a want or just a desire. And that need, want, and desire actually what pushes an individual to exert his energy to achieve what? Somewhat objective. Motivation refers to the internal processes that activate, direct, and sustain behavior in order to fulfill a need or achieve a goal. It is the driving force behind an individual's action, efforts, and choices. Motivation influences the intensity, persistence, and direction of behavior. So with motivation, it can actually what? Make somebody to what? To intensify their behavior or to increase their what? Their behavior in a particular what? Direction. In the same way, motivation can actually direct somebody on how to behave. So it can be what? An influencer of what? The way people what? The way people react to what? Certain what? Situations. We look at importance of motivation. Why is it important? Motivation increase productivity. Is it moving now? Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we said that motivation increase productivity. Motivated workers are more productive. An example is a motivated manufacturing team meet production targets ahead of schedule, increasing overall productivity. So when people are motivated, it pushes them. Their motivational, the need or the desire to achieve something actually pushes them to be able to what? To increase productivity. It also enhances job satisfaction. Motivation improves job satisfaction. For example, a motivated customer service representative drives fulfillment from helping customers and resolving their issues. So when an employee or a salesperson is what? Self-motivated or is motivated by the organization, what they do is that, what's going on here? It helps them to be able to what? Present customer what? Problems and to solve them. And by so doing, they derive some satisfaction from what they do. Motivation also improves quality of work. Motivated workers deliver high quality work. A motivated software developer ensures clean, efficient, and error-free code, resulting in a high quality what? End product. They are also what? Engaged. Motivated employees are also engaged employees. Motivated workers are engaged in their work. Example is a motivated marketing team members contribute innovative ideas to drive brand awareness. It also improves employee retention. Motivated workers stay longer. A motivated employee who receives regular opportunities for growth and development is more likely to stay with the organization. So what it means is that when people are well motivated, they are what? Engaged, and they stay in what? The organization. So there is what? No or minimal rate of employee turnover. Then there is also team collaboration. Motivated workers foster teamwork. A motivated project team work cohesively, leveraging each other's strength to deliver successful outcome. And so when individuals are motivated, when you put them in teams, they are able to collaborate well with their team members. There is team cohesion, and there is what? A successful what? Delivery on the project that they are working on. Then we have positive work atmosphere. Motivated workers create a positive work environment. For example, a motivated employee who expresses gratitude and offers assistance uplifts the work atmosphere. So when people are motivated, they are willingly able to support others. They are able to assist others, offer free assistance for others who are or who may be in need. And by so doing, it fosters a positive work atmosphere. Then they are able to adapt to change. There is adaptability to change. Motivated workers embrace change. A motivated team member quickly adapts to a new technological implementation, acquiring the necessary skill. So when people are motivated, when employees are motivated, and there is a change in an organization, they are, instead of resisting vehemently to that change, they are able to adapt to that change. Then we also say, we also want to find out the types of motivation. Types of motivation. We have intrinsic motivation, and we have extrinsic motivation. We have intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. With intrinsic motivation, it refers to the internal drive, desire, or personal satisfaction that comes from engaging in an activity for its own sake rather than for external reward or incentives. It is characterized by a genuine interest and enjoyment in the activity itself, and individuals are motivated by the inherent pleasure, fulfillment, or sense of accomplishment it brings. Intrinsic motivation is often associated with feelings of autonomy, competence, and a sense of personal growth and mastery. Unlike extrinsic motivation, which involves external factors like reward or punishment, intrinsic motivation is self-sustaining and arises from within the individual. So with intrinsic motivation, it is an innate drive, a desire, or a personal satisfaction that is derived from performing a specific activity. For example, we have people who have joy in painting or drawing. Such people, they don't need you to tell them to draw. They have some joy when they draw. They have some self-satisfaction when they draw. So you realize that nobody is paying them to draw, but by drawing, they are self-fulfilled. And so intrinsic motivation is from within the individual. It is not characterized by an external reward or incentive. It is driven by some inner desire. Then we look at some examples. For instance, pursuing a hobby. Engaging in a hobby such as painting, playing a musical instrument, or gardening purely for the joy and personal satisfaction it brings without any external pressures or reward. And so one of the examples is hobbies. People have hobbies like painting, writing stories, writing songs, gardening, only for the joy of it. And so such people, you don't need to push them to play the instrument. You don't need to push them to do the gardening. They do so with some joy within them. And so they want to do this with autonomy. They don't want any instructions. They don't want any direction. They want to do it at their own convenience. And they derive some satisfaction. Whether you pay them or not, they are self-satisfied with doing those activities. Another example is learning for personal growth. Studying a subject or acquiring new knowledge out of curiosity and the desire to expand one's understanding without any external expectation or academic requirement. Some people also desire to study a particular knowledge. Some desire to know how to sew. So they will just be observing when people are sewing. They will be giving assistance just to know how to sew. And it is self-satisfying once they are able to know how to sew. We have solving puzzles. Engaging in puzzle-solving activities such as crossword or Sudoku for the intellectual challenge and the pleasure of figuring out solution. So sometimes we may even have some games on our phones, and some of the games, they are challenges. Once you finish with step 1, you have to move to step 2. Sometimes they are so challenging, but you still want to get to step 2, and so sometimes you just struggle your way through. Once you get to step 2, you see that you are even applauding yourself, and you feel self-satisfied. You feel so joyful. So that is another form of intrinsic motivation. Nobody is paying you by solving the puzzle, but you feel good about yourself when you are able to solve that challenge. Then we have engaging in creative work, such as writing, painting, or composing music for self-expression and the satisfaction of creating something unique and meaningful, rather than solely for external recognition or financial gain. So sometimes you are good in writing story. So sometimes you just, after work, you feel bored. So you take a piece of you take your notebook or your writing pad, you take your pen, and then you start writing what happened at the office. So you write and write and write and write. When you are done, you sit back, you read, and then you are joyful. Not because somebody is giving you an award for writing, or somebody is giving you some financial gain for writing, but you find it joy in doing such writing. These are all forms of intrinsic motivation. Now we also look at extrinsic motivation. We say that intrinsic motivation is the drive within an individual, and it comes from the individual. Extrinsic motivation, on the other hand, is engaging in an activity or behavior primarily to obtain external reward or avoid negative consequences. So with this type of motivation, once you are motivated to do this, you also expect somewhat external reward, or you expect that you will not be punished by exhibiting that extrinsic behavior. It involves performing a task with expectation of receiving a tangible or external outcome, such as money, grades, praise, recognition, or promotion. Extrinsic motivation is driven by external factors rather than internal desire or enjoyment of the activity itself. So unlike intrinsic, where people do activities with a pure joy from within, extrinsic motivation is actually expected to receive some physical reward. Example of extrinsic motivation include working overtime to earn a bonus, studying hard to achieve high grade, or participating in a competition to win a prize. If not because you want to have A's, you wouldn't study hard. And so the aim of studying hard in order to get high grade is an extrinsic motivation. So you realize that it is conditional. Performing certain job under extrinsic motivation is a condition. I am doing this so that I will get this. I'm working overtime so that I'll get a bonus. If there is no bonus, I am not working overtime. By comparing it to intrinsic, whether there is bonus or there is no bonus, I have joy in doing this. But with extrinsic, Insofar as there is bonus, I'll work overtime. Insofar as I'll get A, I will study hard. Insofar as I'll get a prize, I will participate in the competition. And so you realize that with the extrinsic motivation, there is always an attachment of what? A condition. While external rewards can serve as effective motivators in certain situations, reliance solely on extrinsic motivation may not foster long-term engagement or intrinsic satisfaction with the task at hand. So what this is saying is that as a manager in the organization, you do not just focus your motivational factors on only extrinsic factors or external factors, but you must also take into consideration the internal desires so that there will be a balance. There are some people, they are working not because they want money, but they find joy in working. And so when you give them money for doing certain jobs, they think that you are bribing them. And so you actually demotivate them. And so you must be able to understand the factors that motivate internally and the factors that motivate externally. That is the intrinsic motivation and the extrinsic motivation. So that as a manager, you apply this to the organization in order to find a balance. There are some people, if not because of money, they will not work. And there are some people who also work for the joy of it. So you must be able to blend intrinsic reward as well as extrinsic reward, so that those who find the inner joy will achieve intrinsic reward, and those who find external factors will also achieve extrinsic reward. We look at some of the examples of extrinsic motivation. We have monetary rewards. Working overtime to earn a bonus or commission, or thriving to receive a pay raise or promotion based on performance. So some people work overtime just because of the money that they will get, or because of promotion. Grace and academic achievement, studying diligently to achieve high grades, earn scholarship, or gain recognition from teachers and parents. We have recognitions and awards, participating in a competition or contest to win a trophy, certificate, or public recognition for accomplishment. So if not because of the trophy, if not because of certificate or public recognition, this will not people will not actually participate in any competition or contest. Then we also have social approval, engaging in certain behavior or conforming to social norms to gain acceptance, approval, or avoid social rejection. Some people behave in a certain way just so that they will be recognized by people or they will be accepted by people, not because they want to do that. But for the mere fact that if they don't do that, they will be reprimanded or they will be punished. They will actually act in that way for them to be accepted by other people. Then we have punishment and consequences, completing assigned tasks or following rules to avoid negative consequences, such as disciplinary action, fines, or reprimands. So there are certain behaviors people put across, not because they think it is appropriate to behave in that way, but because they want to behave that way in order to avoid punishment, disciplinary action, or reprimands. And so, having learned the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, we look at the content theory of motivation. So now we are going to look at theories of motivation. But under the theories of motivation, we have theories that have been categorized as the content theory, and then we have those that have been categorized as the process theory. The content theories of motivation focus on understanding the specific factors or needs that drive behavior and motivation. So with the content theory, it is looking at certain factors or certain contents or needs that drive individuals to behave the way they do. These theories explore the underlying needs or desires that individuals seek to fulfill. So the content theory brings out some needs that people need to fulfill, and because they need to fulfill that, they are motivated to fulfill it. If there are no needs, there wouldn't be what? Motivation to do anything. But because there are certain factors that drive those needs, they are able to what? Satisfy those needs because they are motivated to do so. These theories propose that individuals are motivated by different types of needs, and the fulfillment of these needs influence their behavior and motivation. So the content theory explains that people will behave in a certain way when they are able to fulfill a particular type of need. So when you see people behaving in a particular way, it means that they are trying to fulfill a need. That is why they are behaving in that way. If there are no needs, there wouldn't be any behavior. So that is what the content theory is about. Content theories highlight the importance of identifying and satisfying specific needs to enhance motivation and engagement. And so under the content theory, we have the Maslow's theory of needs, we have the existence, relatedness, growth, that is the ERG theory, we have the McGregor theory, X and Y, we have McClelland theory of needs, and then we have the Herzberg's two-factor theory. So all these theories actually identify a need that needs to be fulfilled. And based on the fulfillment of that need, people are motivated to what? To work towards the fulfillment of that need. And so let's look at what? The Maslow's theory of what? Need, or the Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a psychological theory proposed by Abraham Maslow in 1943. The theory suggests that human needs can be organized into a hierarchical structure where certain needs must be fulfilled before higher level needs can be what? Pursued. According to Maslow, individuals are motivated to fulfill these needs in order to achieve self-actualization, which is the ultimate goal of personal growth and fulfillment. The hierarchy is typically depicted as a pyramid with 5 levels from the most fundamental physiological needs at the base to the highest level needs at the top. So this is how the hierarchy looks like. So at the base of it here, we have the physiological needs comprising of food, water, warmth, and rest. And as we climb higher, we come towards safety needs, which is security and safety. Once this is fulfilled, the individuals climb higher by looking at belongingness and love need. And these are intimate relationships and friends. After fulfillment of this, Maslow proposes that the individuals will climb higher by seeking what? Esteem need. And the esteem need is finding prestige and feeling of what? Accomplishment. And at the apex of it is the self-actualization, where individuals achieve full potential, including creative activity. So according to Maslow, this actually what? Push people to what? To a higher need. So once an individual is able to find the basic need, he strives to what? Achieve the security needs, to the belongingness needs, to the what? Self-esteem, and then finally to self-actualization. So the basic need, which is the physiological need, are the most basic needs necessary for survival, such as food, water, air, shelter, sleep, and clothing. Individuals strive to satisfy these needs first, as they are essential for maintaining life. Then we move on to the safety need. Once physiological needs are met, individuals seek safety and security. This includes physical safety, financial stability, protection from harm, and a sense of order and predictability in their environment. After they have satisfied the safety need, they move ahead to look for love and then belongingness. After safety needs are satisfied, people have a need for social connection, love, and a sense of belonging. This involves forming meaningful relationships, experiencing intimacy, and being part of a community or social groups. Then we move on to the esteem needs. Once the lower level needs are fulfilled, individuals seek to build self-esteem and gain recognition from others. This includes developing self-confidence, achieving success, and earning the respect and admiration of others. And then finally, we look at self-actualization, and this is the highest level of hierarchy. Self-actualization refers to the desire for personal growth, self-fulfillment, and reaching one's full potential. It involves pursuing meaningful activities, embracing creativity, and seeking personal fulfillment and purpose in life. So according to Abraham Maslow, he thinks that people are motivated to satisfy a particular need, and until that need is satisfied, they don't have the desire to go for a higher need. So given a person like Akosia Mansa will not seek towards self-actualization when he doesn't have a place to sleep. So unless he has a place to sleep, he has something to eat, then he wants what? A house. Once he gets a house, then he's now looking for safety. He's going to buy what? A padlock to secure the house. And once he has this, then he has the desire to be associated with friends, because now he can take his friends to his house. And so once this need is also fulfilled, then he seeks to find esteem need. And so Maslow's theory actually indicates that until a lower need is satisfied, there is no desire for the satisfaction of a higher need. Any question? Any question? Any question? Okay. If there are no questions, we move on to the ERG theory, or the frustration regression theory. The ERG theory, also known as the frustration regression theory, is a motivational theory that falls under the broader category of content theory of motivation. Developed by Clayton Alderfer in the 1960s and as an extension of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. ERG theory proposed that people have three core needs that motivate their motivation. 1, existence needs. 2, relatedness needs. And 3, the growth need. The existing needs are similar to Maslow's physiological and safety needs. They include the basic requirements for survival, such as food, water, shelter, and physical safety. Employees ensuring they have enough food, taking breaks, and seeking job security. So whilst Maslow categorizes the various needs into 5 pyramids, Alderfer combines them into 3 basic needs and names them as existing needs. And so the existing needs are the things that people need in order for them to exist, such as food, water, shelter, and physical safety. Then after this need is satisfied, the person goes to relatedness, how to relate with people. These needs pertain to social interaction and involve forming meaningful relationships with others, experiencing a sense of belongingness, and establishing connection within a group or community. So in work-related environment, engaging in teamwork, seeking positive relationship with supervisors and co-workers. And then finally, we have the growth need. These growth needs are comparable to Maslow's esteem and self-actualization needs. They involve personal development, self-improvement, and the desire for personal growth and achievement. Examples include pursuing opportunities for learning and professional development. This can include attending workshops, seminars, or training sessions to enhance skills and knowledge relevant to one's job or career goal. Setting and striving for challenging goals. Employees may seek opportunities to take on more responsibility, lead projects, or pursue promotions to satisfy their desire for personal growth and advancement. So you realize that Maslow's 5 needs has been categorized, and so with the ERG need, that is the existing needs, combines the physiological and the safety needs. The relatedness needs also looks at the belongingness or the love needs, and then the growth need talks about the self-actualization and the self-esteem needs. The unique aspect of the ERG theory is its proposition that individuals can experience frustration in trying to satisfy one need and may then shift their focus to another need. So going back to look at Maslow's theory, you realize that according to Abraham Maslow, he proposes that an individual will only strive to satisfy another need when a lower need has been satisfied. So until the basic need is satisfied, a person will not go ahead to look for the safety need. But ADFA combines all of them. And so that is the uniqueness of this the theory. And this theory proposes that an individual do not look for a particular need to satisfy before going to the other. He can be trying to satisfy the growth need as well as the existing need at the same time. And sometimes when these needs are not met, the person becomes frustrated and then goes back to to try to fulfill a lower level need. According to ADFA, if a higher level need is blocked or unsatisfied, an individual may regress to lower level needs that they can fulfill. So if somebody is trying to fulfill the growth need, but is not able to fulfill that, if the person wants to self-actualize or have some self-esteem, but is finding it difficult to do so, they may come back to the existing need to ensure that they have fully satisfied the existing need. And when this happens, it turns to some form of frustration. The ERG theory is often contrasted with Maslow's theory of needs, as it suggests that individuals may pursue multiple needs simultaneously, and that the order of needs may vary among individuals. So whereas Maslow is proposing that people will satisfy one need before moving to another need, you see, the ADFA is saying that you don't need to wait till you finish satisfying one need before you move to the other. You can actually satisfy 2 or more needs at the same time. Additionally, ADFA proposed that satisfaction of a higher level need does not necessarily depend on the complete fulfillment of a lower level need, and which is true. You don't need to satisfy or make sure that you have security before you build friendship. Some people, they don't have their own apartment. They sleep on the streets, but they have friends and they have somewhat stability in terms of money. You can see beggars who have savings accounts that you have worked for 20 years, you don't have. And so these beggars, they don't have a place of their own. They don't have a place to sleep. But they have bank accounts, savings accounts. And so ADFA is actually saying that A person does not need to make sure that they have a place to sleep, they have friends before they look for safety. You can actually have friends, you can actually have safety, but you may not even have what? The basic need. You may not even have a place to sleep, or you may not even have clothing to wear. So that is what Adifa is saying, that the successful, the satisfaction of a higher need does not necessarily depend on the completion of what? A lower need. And so having known this, we move ahead and then we look at what? McGregor's theory X and Y. Any question on ERG theory and the Maslow's theory? Any question on the two theories before we move ahead? Okay. If there are no questions, let's move ahead and look at McGregor's theory X and Y. McGregor theory X and Y are two contrasting approaches to understanding and managing human behavior in the workplace. These theories were proposed by Douglas McGregor, an American social psychologist, in his book, The Human Side of Enterprise, published in 1960. According to the theory X, employees are inherently lazy, dislike work, and need to be closely supervised and controlled. The theory presumes that people have an inherent dislike for work and will avoid it whenever possible. It suggests that employees have little ambition, lack self-motivation, and require external rewards or punishment to perform well. Managers who hold theory X assumption tend to adopt an autocratic management style, micromanage their subordinates, and impose strict rules and procedures to ensure productivity. So McGregor proposes that there are theories, a theory Y and theory X. And according to McGregor, the theory Y assumes that people are lazy, employees are lazy. So until you give them close supervision, they will not work. And so it also suggests that people don't have ambition, or they lack motivation. And so if you want them to work, you have to what? Enforce rules and regulations. You have to enforce what? Punishment and rewards. And so once people see that there are rewards, they will work hard. And when they see that there are punishments, they will abstain from certain behavior. And so for managers who believe in what? Theory X, they use what? Stringent measures in managing their employees, such as the autocratic what? Management style, and strict what? Rules and procedures to ensure productivity. Theory Y, on the other hand, assumes that human beings or human nature are self-motivated. They are responsible and capable of what? Taking initiative. According to theory Y, work can be fulfilling and enjoyable, and employees are motivated by higher level needs such as personal growth, achievement, and recognition. Managers who hold theory Y assumptions believe in empowering their employees, involving them in decision making, and creating a positive and participative work environment. So unlike the theory X, which assumes that individuals or employees are lazy, theory Y feels that, or assumes that, human beings or employees are self-motivated and responsible. So without stringent procedures, without stringent measures, without establishing strict measures, punishment, and rewards, people are still what? self-motivated to work. And so managers who believe in the theory are always empowering their employees and then involving them in decision making. In comparing between theory X and theory Y, we will look at management. In comparing them. In terms of motivation, theory X assumes that employees are primarily motivated by external factors such as rewards, punishment, and fear of consequences. They lack intrinsic motivation and need constant supervision and control. Theory Y assumes that employees are self-motivated and seek personal growth, achievement, and recognition. Intrinsic motivation is emphasized, and employees are seen as proactive in their work. So we want to compare the views of theory X and Y in terms of certain variables. So the first one is the motivation that we have looked at. Now moving ahead, we look at management style and control. For theory Y managers, they tend to adopt an autocratic management style. They exercise close control, closely supervise employees, and make decisions without much input from the team. On the other hand, following theory X managers, they adopt a participative management style. They empower employees, involve them in decision-making process, and encourage collaboration and autonomy. Looking at work organization, under theory X, work organization is hierarchical and centralized. Decision-making is centralized or concentrated at the top, and employees have limited autonomy and little influence over their work. Under the theory X, work organization is decentralized and participatory. Decision-making is distributed among team members, and employees are given autonomy to make decisions related to their work. We look at rewards and appraisal. Under theory X, rewards and appraisals are often based on extrinsic factors such as performance targets, financial incentives, and punishment for poor performance. The focus is on external motivation and compliance. However, in theory Y, rewards and appraisals emphasize intrinsic factors such as personal growth, recognition, and opportunities for learning and development. The focus is on fostering employee engagement and satisfaction. Having looked at this, we go ahead and look at another theory of motivation, which is McClelland theory of need. McClelland theory of needs, also known as the three needs theory, is a motivational theory proposed by psychologist David McClelland in the 1960s. According to this theory, individuals are primarily motivated by three fundamental needs: achievement, affiliation, and power. These needs influence individuals' behavior and drive their actions in various contexts, such as work, relationship, and personal goals. McClelland theory of needs proposed that individuals are motivated by three fundamental needs: the need for achievement, the need for affiliation, and the need for power. So looking at the need for achievement, the desire to excel accomplish challenging tasks, and succeed. So when people have the desire to achieve some task, they are self-motivated. An example, a salesperson setting ambitious sales targets and working hard to surpass them for personal accomplishment. So because of the personal accomplishment that he wants or he needs to achieve, he is motivated. Then the need for affiliation, the desire for positive social interaction, belongingness, and harmonious relationship. An example is an individual who enjoys working collaboratively, seeks approval, and contributes to a supportive work culture. And then the need for power, the desire to influence, control, and have an impact on others. A manager who seeks leadership position enjoys making decisions and is recognized as an authority figure. So under the need for achievement, we have drive to excel, achieve in relation to a set of standards, and then strive to succeed. The need for power, to control others and to get desired things done. And then we have the need for affiliation, such as friendship and good relationship. Then we also look at Herzberg's two-factor theory. Herzberg's two-factor theory. Herzberg's two-factor theory, also known as the motivation hygiene theory or the dual factor theory, was developed by Frederick Herzberg in the late 1950s. The theory attempts to explain and understand workplace motivation and job satisfaction. According to Herzberg, there are two sets of factors that influence an individual's motivation and job satisfaction, and these are the hygiene factors and motivators. Herzberg's theory suggests that managers need to focus on both hygiene factors and motivators to create a motivating work environment. So to Herzberg, for an individual to be motivated, there should be an aspect of the hygiene factor and an aspect of a motivator. When you concentrate as a manager on only the hygiene factor, you may not be able to motivate your employees. In the same way, when you concentrate only on the motivators, your employees may not be motivated. And so it is important to understand the factors that contribute to the hygiene factors as well as the motivators. And in combining them, you can gain much satisfaction and then push your employees to be motivated. So the hygiene factors are the factors that relate to the work environment and the context in which people perform their work. They do not lead to satisfaction on their own, but can cause dissatisfaction if they are not adequately met. These include company policy, salary and benefit, job security, working condition, interpersonal relationship, status, and work-life balance. So you realize that these themselves do not lead to satisfaction, but in the absence of these, it can cause dissatisfaction. Herzberg argued that when hygiene factors are insufficient or problematic, employees become dissatisfied, leading to complaints and decrease in motivation. However, improving these factors does not necessarily result in increased motivation, but merely prevent dissatisfaction. Then we go ahead and look at the motivators. Unlike the hygiene factors, motivators are intrinsic to the work itself and can directly contribute to employee satisfaction and motivation. They relate to the nature of the work and the psychological needs of what individual. These include achievements, recognition, responsibility, advancement opportunities, personal growth, and meaningful and challenging job. So to help back as a manager, you need to identify which factors are hygiene factors and which are motivators so that you can combine them to be able to what? Achieve what? Employee what? Motivation. When you concentrate only on what? Responsibility and personal growth at the expense of what? Salaries and the working what? Environment, you may not be able to what? Enhance what? Motivation. In the same way, if you just concentrating on increasing what? The job, the facilities in the job environment, you are just increasing what? Salaries without people having the opportunity to advance themselves. You are what? Demotivating them. And so to be able to motivate employees, managers need to combine the motivators as well as the hygiene factors so that they can what? Increase the motivation of what? Their employees. To Herzberg, when motivators are present and fulfilled, employees experience job satisfaction and increase what? Motivation. These factors tap into an individual's higher level needs and can lead to personal and professional development. So where there are what? Opportunities for advancement, where there are personal growth, people are able to what? Achieve professional development. They are able to go higher to achieve the self-esteem need. But where there are no opportunities for growth, there are no opportunities for what? Future advancement. People are just retarded. People are just plateaued in a particular organization. They will be what? Demotivated. Any question so far on the content theory of motivation? Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question? All right. Then let's go ahead and look at the process theories of motivation. Remember when we were looking at the content theory, we said that the content theory identifies certain what? Needs or certain factors which people desire to achieve them. And based on their desire for achievement, it motivates them. The process theory, on the other hand, focus on how individuals perceive and interpret different aspects of their work environment and how this perception or interpretation influence their motivation and behavior. So you realize that whilst the content theory looks out for certain factors to be what? To be achieved, the process theory looks at certain perception that pertains within the work environment. And this perception influence how people what? Behave, or whether people are motivated or not. This theory emphasizes the recognition processes involved in motivation and provide insight into why people choose to engage in certain behaviors. There are 4 prominent process theories of motivation, and these are the expectancy theory, the equity theory, the goal setting theory, and the recognition evaluation theory. So we look at the expectancy theory. Developed by Victor Vroom, expectancy theory suggests that an individual motivation depends on their expectation of achieving desired outcome. It comprises 3 key elements. We have the expectancy, the instrumentality, as well as what? The valence. With expectancy, It is the belief that effort will lead to a performance. If an individual believes that putting in an effort will result in successful performance, they are more likely to be motivated. So remember we said that process theory is about what? Expectation or perception. So when people perceive things in a particular way, they behave in a particular way. So when people perceive that, or when people believe that when they put in much effort, they will have a successful what? Performance, then of course they will put in what? Much effort. Instrumentality is the belief that performance will lead to desired outcome or reward. If an individual believes that their performance will be rewarded, they are more likely to be what? Motivated. And so with expectancy theory, people expect to get certain things. And because of the what? That expectation, they what? Work higher. And then working higher also comes with certain reward. And so all things being equal, high performance is equals to what? High reward. And then we have a valence, which is the value. The valence is the value or attractiveness an individual places on the anticipated what? Reward. Higher valence leads to what? Stronger motivation. So let me just give this illustration or this equation. So we are saying that E is equals to what? I. Expectancy should be equal to what? The instrumentality, which should also be equal to what? The V. So assuming you are a student, and then you know that when you study very hard, you are going to get A in organizational behavior. You were in class throughout, you participated in all the assessment, you participated in presentation, if any, you also participated in the what? End of semester. You did so well, you got 20/20 over the first assessment, 20/20 on the second assessment, and probably you are expecting to get about 50 in what? The second assessment. So if your effort, you believe that once you study very hard, you can get A in organizational behavior. And so because of that belief, you have studied so high, but you've studied all this, but at the end of the day, you are getting C in organizational behavior. That C will what? Will demotivate you. And so you realize that the effort that you have put in does not commensurate with the reward that you are having. So having put in much effort, you think that this course I've really studied, so at least I should get an A or a B plus, but you are getting a C. That alone can what? Demotivate you. And so the expectancy theory is saying that based on people's perception of what? How they would what? Perform, or the reward that they will get. When they perform more and then they get higher reward, they are motivated. But when they perform more and they get lower rewards, they are demotivated. So an example is given here that an employee is motivated to work hard because they believe it will increase their chances of promotion. But if employees work very hard, but they are not being promoted, but rather the lazy people among them are being promoted, you realize that effort and reward does not commensurate. Effort is not equal to what? Reward. And because of that, individuals will be what? Demotivated. And so to be able to actually what? Increase motivation, it is expected that individuals expect that their effort should commensurate with their what? Their rewards. Once effort is commensurated with reward, then that alone what? Motivates them to perform higher and in other circumstances. Then we look at equity theory. The equity theory, also developed by Stacey Adams, focuses on the perceived fairness of outcomes in relation to outputs. And this is similar to what? The expectancy theory. It suggests that individuals compare their own input-output ratio to that of others, and if they perceive an inequity, it can affect their motivation. So let's say that Kwesi Mensah and Adwa Menu are having the same qualification in an organization. Their job description is the same. They do almost similar job, but at the end of the day, you realize that Akosia Menu is taking about 5,000, whilst Kwesi Menu is taking 2,000. You realize that Kwesi Menu will be demotivated, because he realizes that the input that he's putting in the organization and the reward that he's getting are not equal. So here they normally compare their output with a colleague. So if they are all doing very well, but one is being rewarded more than other, they seem to perceive that as unfairness and inequality, and or inequity and unfairness, and because of that, it demotivates the other person who is being cheated. Individuals strive to achieve a sense of fairness and may adjust their effort or expectation to restore equity. So when people are trying to compare their performance level, and two people find out that they are performing almost the same, they are also expected to have the same reward. But if they are performing the same, but the reward system is different, then the other person may be aggrieved, and this can also result into demotivation. An example, considering a team of employees who work on a project together. If one team member, John, feels that he's contributing more effort and time compared to his teammates, but receive the same rewards, he may perceive an inequity and become demotivated. On the other hand, if John's perception is that the rewards he receives are proportionate to his effort, he will perceive equity and maintain motivation. So the equity theory is just telling us about fairness. If two individuals in an organization feel that their rewards are not fair, it can demotivate. But if they compare their rewards and they find out that their effort is rewarded adequately in line with other team members, then they are motivated to work. Then we also look at the goal setting theory, also proposed by Edwin Locke, emphasizes the importance of specific and challenging goals in motivating individuals. According to this theory, setting clear goals enhances performance and motivation. Specific and measurable goals provide direction and serve as benchmarks for progress. Feedback on goal achievement is also crucial for maintaining motivation. For example, salesperson Alex is given a specific goal of increasing sales by 20% in the next quarter. This goal is challenging but attainable. According to the goal setting theory, Alex's motivation will increase because he has a clear target to work towards. The goal provides him with a sense of direction and accomplishment, and he can track his progress and receive feedback along the way. So the goal setting theory is also proposing that people will actually be motivated to work hard when they have a goal to fulfill. If you don't have any goal to fulfill, you just be in the house. Even going to work will even be a problem because there is nothing for you to go and strive for. But if there is an attainable goal that has been set, that alone motivates you to go and work towards the achievement of that goal. So you realize that the process theory, unlike the content theory, is telling us about the things that actually predict people's behavior towards motivation. And so people will be motivated when they expect that their reward is equal to their performance is equals to what? Their reward according to the expectancy theory. Then when you come to the equity theory, when they compare the rewards of and then output of others, and then they find out that they are equal to that of their own effort and reward, they will be motivated. And now the goal theory is also saying that once there is a set goal, that goal, that or the desire to achieve that goal motivates people to go and work in order to achieve the goal. Then we have the cognitive evaluation theory. The cognitive evaluation theory, developed by Richard Ryan and Edward Dacey, focus on the impact of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation on individual behavior. So here we are looking at how both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation will influence employees' behavior. The theory suggests that the introduction of external reward for an intrinsically motivating task can reduce intrinsic motivation if the rewards are perceived as controlling or undermining intrinsic interest. Autonomy, competence, and relatedness are key psychological needs that influence intrinsic motivation. So like the theory, even what? The name of the theory, cognitive. Cognitive is in the mind. Cognitive is mental. So you are evaluating what? Your mental what? How the brain works. And so for some people, they are what? Intrinsically motivated. For some people, they are extrinsically what? Motivated. So once as a manager, you want to motivate your individuals, you must also take into account the people who are intrinsically what? Motivated. And so such people, you give them some autonomy, you give them some competencies so that they can be psychologically fulfilled in order to what? Achieve what? Greater what? Satisfaction. Example, if an employee, Mary, who enjoys working on creative projects independently, she finds satisfaction and enjoyment in the process itself, which is what? Intrinsic. However, if a supervisor begins to offer monetary rewards for completing those projects, Mary may perceive the reward as controlling and feel that her autonomy is being what? Undermined. This perception may decrease her intrinsic motivation and lead to a decline in her creativity and job satisfaction. So the theory proposes that try to find out what motivates people what? Intrinsically. And then when you identify what motivates people intrinsically, you leave them to enjoy what they do. But when you try to what? Influence them, they think you are bribing them. They think you are undermining them. And so they may not be able to put up the best performance if they are left alone to what? Do the things that they enjoy doing. And then finally, we look at what? The Porter-Lawler model of motivation. The Porter-Lawler model, developed by Lehman Porter and Edward Lawler, builds upon the expectancy theory and expands on the relationship between effort, performance, and reward. This model seeks to explain how various factors influence an individual's motivation and job satisfaction. The Porter-Lawler model consists of several key efforts. We have the effort, we have performance, we have rewards, we have satisfaction, we have recognition, and perception. So under the effort, this refers to the amount of energy and effort an individual puts into their work. It is influenced by factors such as job requirements, skills, ability, and personal characteristics. Then we look at another component of the model, which is performance. Performance is the actual level of accomplishment achieved by an individual in their job. According to this model, performance is not solely determined by effort, but also influenced by individual ability and external factors such as task clarity and available resources. And so here, when you want to assess somebody's performance, you want to assess somebody's reward, an employee's performance, you must take into account his ability and the availability of what resources. Some people, if they are not clearly assigned, may be given difficult tasks. So you compare the person's ability to the task that the person is expected to perform, and you realize that the task is so strenuous, is so technical that the person's ability will not help him or her to be able to perform that particular task. Some may have the ability, the skills, and the competency, but the resources to perform the task may not be available. And so when you want to assess an individual's performance, you must be able to first determine whether they have the capacity in terms of capabilities, competencies, skills, and abilities. And then if there are available resources to perform the job, as well as clarity of role. Then we move on to another component, which is reward. Rewards are the outcomes or consequences that individuals receive for their performance. They can be both intrinsic, that is a sense of accomplishment, and extrinsic, that is salary recognition or promotion. Rewards play a crucial role in motivating individuals and influencing their job satisfaction. And so when people perceive that their rewards are low compared to their output, you see that it will influence their behavior and they can be dissatisfied. But when they perceive that their reward commensurate with their output, then they will be motivated and they will be able to perform better. Then we also have satisfaction. Job satisfaction, which refers to the individual's overall feeling of the contentment and fulfillment with their work. According to the Portalola model, satisfaction is not solely determined by the level of rewards received, but is also influenced by the person's perception of the equity or fairness of their reward in relation to their efforts and performance. So people will just not be satisfied when they realize that they have put in more effort, but their reward is minimal. But when they perceive that they have put in more effort, they have been able to perform out of the effort that they put, and then they are rewarded accordingly, then they will be satisfied with their job. And then finally, we have the recognition and then perception. This model recognizes the importance of recognition, cognitive. The model recognizes the importance of cognitive processes in motivation. So you realize that it also looks at the mind, what the mind thinks. Is the mind thinking that the reward is equal to performance? Is the mind perceiving that he is not cheated? Is the mind perceiving that there is equity with respect to the reward? If the mind perceives that there is equity, then of course there is motivation. So individuals' perception and belief about the relationship between their effort, performance, and reward play a significant role in shaping their motivation and job satisfaction. Any question? Any question? Any question?
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Yes. Please, I have a little question.
Sure.
Please, I want you to throw a bit more light on the intrinsic aspect of motivation, because what I am not able to understand is if there are an exact examples to the kind of motivation which is intrinsically, because sometimes, let's say, we the those teaching in JHS, teaching individual subjects, the child may be good in drawing, or intrinsically may like drawing, but as a manager or as a teacher, you know that you are a science or a math teacher, and that doesn't relate to the subject or the aim or the motive of your teaching. Are you to allow the child, because that motivates the child, and that's the aspect that the child enjoys, or there are a way to correct that so that the child may be able to follow your aim or your goal at the end, because maybe the intrinsic motivation doesn't conform to the goal that you have set or you want to achieve.
All right. So we understand what intrinsic motivation is, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we are saying that intrinsic motivation is the motivation that is derived from within. And with this, whether there is payment, physical reward or not, the person is what? Naturally what? Motivated to do. So in the situation where you are in class and then you realize that there are some students who are intrinsically what? Motivated to study that particular aspect. If you are a science teacher, and then probably you are talking about a living things, and then you are telling them about respiration, for instance, trees respire, animals respire, in that order. For such students, he believes that he can draw the tree. So probably he will draw the tree, he will draw the leaves, and then it will help him to even understand the context better. Instead of you telling the student that we are talking about living things and we know that living things die. And so when you want to, in such situations, somebody who is intrinsically motivated, when you say a tree dies, he understands it though. But for him to actually gain what? The desire to actually learn what you are talking about, you can draw a dead tree. You can draw a tree and then you see that the leaves are falling. And with that, it will convey much what? Meaning to such what students than just telling them that living things die as a characteristic of what? Living things. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so there may be children who are intrinsically motivated. So when you are doing your illustration, you don't just focus on those who are extrinsically motivated. You also look at those who may be intrinsically motivated, and then you combine the extrinsic motivational factors as well as the intrinsic motivational factors, so that those who derive extrinsic will have their component. Those who desire intrinsic will also have what? Their component.
Okay.
Are we together?
Okay. All right.
All right. Any other question? Any other questions? Okay, then let's look at a brief introduction of reward. Rewards refer to the tangible and intangible benefits or incentive provided to an employee in recognition of their performance, contribution, or achievement. So reward is anything that is given to employee in recognition of their achievement or performance. Reward play a significant role in motivating employees and influencing their job satisfaction, engagement, and overall performance. To achieve the best objective from reward, it is important to examine the type of reward, the timing and method of reward, and how to communicate this reward. So the type of reward, we have monetary reward, non-monetary reward, we have what? Intrinsic reward. So with monetary reward, these are financial incentives provided to employees, such as base salary, bonuses, commissions, profit sharing, and stock options. Monetary rewards are often tied to individual or team performance and serve as extrinsic motivator. We also have non-monetary rewards, and these are non-financial incentives that provide value and recognition to employees. Examples include recognition program, an employee of the month or year award, certificates, plaques, trophies, flexible work arrangements, additional time off, or opportunities for what? Career development. So the type of rewards, we can have financial or monetary reward, which is what? Which involves in giving money. Bonuses are money, commissions are money, profit sharing is money, stock option. When we say stock option, there are some organizations that may be selling what? Shares. And they will give opportunities for what? Individual employees to buy some shares so that they become part owners of the organization. And so they can say that we are giving 40% of what? The shares to what? Employees. So if you have money, you can buy 10%, you buy. If you can buy 2%, you buy. You can buy 1%, you buy. That is what? Stock option. And then for non-monetary reward, an award, we can have employee of the year. And then we will organize what? Staff thereby. People will come, we will crown you. Sometimes we give you a crown, we give you a plaque, we give you a certificate, we give you a bouquet of flower for people to know that you have emerged as what? The best worker of the year. Sometimes we can also say that we are giving you what? A trip, you and your family, a funded trip to maybe US, Dubai, China, wherever. And then your tickets are being paid for. There is what? An accommodation for you, food arrangement and others, and maybe $1,000 what? Or a $10,000 income for you to spend. There can also be time off. Sometimes you work extensively and your manager will say that, oh, you have done so well, you have achieved your target, so take 2 days off. It is also a kind of reward, which is non-monetary. And so all this, and then opportunities for career development. Sometimes the organization will sponsor you for a workshop or will sponsor you for what? A training in abroad. These are all rewards, but what? Non-monetary. Then we also have intrinsic reward. Intrinsic rewards are intangible and come from the inherent satisfaction and enjoyment of performing meaningful work. They include factors such as sense of achievement, personal growth, autonomy, challenges, and the opportunity to make what? Difference. So these are all what? The types of reward. Then finally, we look at what? Timing of reward. Timing of what? Reward. Reward can be immediate, it can delay, it can be milestone. So timing of reward will depend on what? The aim of the reward. Providing reward immediately after the desired behavior or performance has occurred can create a strong association between the behavior and the reward. This immediate feedback and reinforcement can enhance motivation and reinforce positive behavior. For example, when a sales team member receives a commission or bonus shortly after closing was a significant deal. So you realize that after you have made some significant milestone, there is what? A reward immediately. Then we have delayed what? Reward. In some cases, rewards may delay and provided at a later what? Time. This approach is often used when the desired behavior or performance requires a longer time period to assess or measure accurately. For example, annual performance bonuses or stock options that are granted after a specified period, such as at the end of the fiscal year. So sometimes the reward can be delayed, such that after the end of the year, we can say that end of year bonuses. So you realize that from January, all the things that you have done, that has contributed positively and that has what? Exceeded the target, they pile it up and then they pay an end of year bonus at the end of the year, which is December. So you realize that instead of paying at January, February or March, they have delayed that result, that reward till the end of the year. So that is what a delayed reward. Then we also have a milestone-based reward. Rewards can be tied to specific milestone or achievement within a project or task. As employees reach predetermined checkpoints or accomplish significant stages of work, they receive reward. This approach helps maintain motivation and provides a sense of progress and accomplishment along the way. There are sometimes there will be teams who are working on projects. Maybe the project can span for 5 years, but depending on each stage, maybe stage 1 is the prototype stage, assuming we are developing a product. So stage 1 is a prototype stage. Stage 2 is what? The product development stage. So management can say that after the product development stage, they can what? Reward their team members. Then they can move ahead to look at other stage of the what? The product, and so on. So at every stage of the product, they are rewarded instead of waiting to go through all the processes within the 5 years. So based on a significant achievement within the stage, employees are what? Or team members are what? Rewarded. And that is what? The milestone reward. Then how to communicate reward. When you want to communicate reward, there are some organizations, some staff do not even understand how the reward systems work. But for employees to understand the reward system and to make it what? Significant, it needs to be what? Communicated. So there should be clear and timely communication. It is important to communicate rewards clearly and promptly to recipients. Clearly communicate the criteria for earning the reward, the specific reward being granted, and any associated conditions or expectation. Timely communication helps reinforce the connection between performance and reward. And so when there is going to be an end of year bonus, you don't wait till the end of year before you say it. Say it at the beginning of the year that we are setting a target of production of what? 2,000 tons. If you are able to exceed our production target, we will have bonuses at the end of the year. So that once people know that when they are able to exceed the target, they are going to earn some bonuses at the end of the year, they will put in much effort from January to what? December, so that they can earn that reward. So you need to communicate reward timely and clearly so that everybody will know what is at stake and they will work towards what? The accomplishment of the goal and the receiving of what? The said reward. Then personalized what? Recognition. In communicating the reward, you need to what? Personalize it. Personalize the communication of reward to make it more meaningful and impactful. Address the individual employee by name and acknowledge their specific achievement or contribution that led to the what? Reward. Personalized recognition shows that their efforts are valued and appreciated. So you don't just say that we are sharing what? Bonus, so everybody come. You can say that, oh, person A or person B have contributed towards this milestone. Team A and Team B have worked towards this. So let them know who have contributed to that what? Milestone, so that they feel that this actually belongs to us. We are receiving this as a result of our own what? Effort. Don't generalize recognition. Personalize what? Recognition. And then be transparent and fair. Maintain transparency and fairness in the reward process. Clearly communicate the process for determining reward and ensure that it is based on objective criteria and performance measures. This transparency helps build trust and confidence in the reward system. Let everybody understand the constituent of what? Performance. Set clear performance standards. Evaluate performance. Communicate performance appraisal scores, so that everybody knows that this is what I have done and this is what I am expected to gain. When you do that, there is fairness and there is transparency, and people will trust the system. And then there must be what? You provide context and relevance. Explain the significance of the reward and how it aligns with individuals or team goals, as well as overall organizational objective. Help employees understand how their effort and achievement contribute to the success of the organization. The performance of employees are aligned with the performance of the organization. So if the performance of the organization is set that at the end of the year or at the end of the quarter, they should be able to provide 10 tons of what? Output. Then this 10 tons of output is shared among individuals and teams, so that once individuals are able to complete their what? Their targets, all things being equal, there will be the completion of organization-wide what? Target. So set them in that what? Context. Align organizational objective with that of what? That of the individuals. Then you celebrate and you share success. Use communication channels such as team meetings, newsletters, or company-wide announcements to celebrate and share success stories relating to rewards. Highlight the accomplishment of individuals or teams and recognize their contribution in a public and positive manner. This not only motivates the recipient, but also inspire others to try for similar achievement. So you can organize a deba or a dinner, staff dinner, and then you share with members what has transpired. You mention people outstanding performance, you mention their name, so that those people will be what? Motivated, and that will also inspire others to what? For greater what? Achievement. And then you need to provide feedback and reinforcement. Use the communication of rewards as an opportunity to provide feedback and reinforcement. Clearly communicate the impact of the rewarded behavior or performance and how it aligns with organizational expectations. Reinforce the desired behavior or outcomes to encourage their continuation. So when there is a desired outcome, when people have performed extensively, you need to reward this performance. You need to provide positive reinforcement so that it will not only maintain their behavior, but it will also encourage what? Other people to what? To try for what? Better performance, so that they also know that they can also be rewarded, or they can also be what? Recognized in staff database should they exhibit those behaviors that have been what? Rewarded. So with that, we come to the end of today's lesson. Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question? William Yeboah. William. Hello.
Hi.
Any
I'm okay,
question?
madam.
Are we all okay?
Doc, I'm okay.
Doc.
Yes, madam.
Yes, Catherine, any question?
Madam, please, I'm okay.
Okay. So you don't have any question. You understand everything? Do we all understand everything? Yes, Nana.
Doc, sorry, it was a mistake.
Okay. All right. If you don't have any question, we will call it a day. God willing, next week we will meet and then we will look at perception. We will look at perception. How do I share my slide with you? How do I send it to you? Do you have a class email or a class WhatsApp that I can share the slide with you?
We use a class WhatsApp, so the code administrator will add you to the page.
All right, so that I can put my slide there. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So thank you very much for coming. Those who did not come, please remind them. We have a class on Sunday, same time. We are going to look at perception and personality. So you can read ahead so that when we come, you will be able to contribute to the discussion. So our next lesson is going to focus on personality and perception. So on that note, I thank you for joining the class, and I hope that the Lord will grant us another week of life and strength so that we can come again and make discussion on subjects pertaining to organizational behavior. So on that note, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your questions. One or two people were able to answer the questions. I also thank you that you understand the discussion so far, because I was expecting many questions, but when the questions are not coming, I assume that you have grasped the concept and you have understood all that I have said. So if there are no questions and if you have truly understood what we have discussed, then we'll call it a day, and then God willing, we will meet next week.
Amen. Have a nice day, Doc.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, my God.
Thank you.